Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Wednesday of the Rate World, and I'm here with my good friend Kenneth Edmonds. How are you, Ken?
I am fine. Playing catch up. I took a week off. Went on vacation. I did check in with you, by the way. But
You did.
so now my garden is behind. I have all these things I've got to do, and I'm only 2 weeks away from another trip. So it's like, okay, I got to go really fast. But hey, for everybody that's paying attention and watching, where are you watching from today? Let us know.
Yes, please do. And actually, I'll bring up our banners here. And we love comments and questions, and of course, locations. So wherever you are, if you're at work somewhere else, or if you're vacationing yourself somewhere else, we'd love to hear where you are from. We get people from all over the world. We've had Denmark, we've had Australia, we've had France, we've had the UK, we've had South Africa. Where else, Ken? What other countries am I missing? Norway. Yeah. So wherever you're from, please do let us know and leave your comments as we go throughout. And today's episode, we're actually going to be talking about future-proofing your business. And this is a conversation, Ken, that we've been having with so many people, especially post-pandemic, about making sure that the next time something like this happens, that it doesn't have the same impact that it did this time around, right?
Yeah. Oh, so much. And not only from the pandemic, but there are things, and we'll talk about it as we go through the discussion today, but there's things that are out there on the horizon that if you're not paying attention, could render your business obsolete.
Well, digital disruption is probably a prime example, right? And that's certainly one that I think took a back seat for a while in people's mindsets as kind of the world went on pause with this pandemic, but it accelerated. So the kinds of things people are doing digitally because of the pandemic have really accelerated, right? So really excited about talking about that today. The one thing I do want to do is just get into a little bit of news. And it's funny how ink keeps rearing its head, right? And you and I were having a conversation last week, and you were sharing some numbers with me that, frankly, I didn't believe when you were saying them. I said, no, you must be wrong. I know that, compared to other, technologies and stuff, that although ink's getting more affordable, there's no way, the pricing looks, the way it does, right? So I think what I'll do, Ken, if it's all right, I'm going to put up, let's have a look, first of all, I think, at, you tell me, do you want to do A3 or A4 first?
Oh, let's pick A3.
All right, here we go. Okay. So I'm going to pull up A3 here, and I'm going to let you talk to these numbers for.
Okay, well, this was really interesting. This was a gap TCO comparison from the imaging channel. And they did A3 devices, for small and mid-sized office SMB type of spaces. And the lowest cost per page at 8 mils was the HP page-wide managed color device. And that was for the black, and on the page-wise managed color for and this was contract pricing for the color page was 4.5 cents a page. And that's based on the contract with HP supplying the ink and the support on that. Again, so the interesting thing is that's compared to a Toshiba, a Ricoh, and a Kyocera. And these are all devices that we would have expected in the past to have hands down been less expensive than ink. And these are devices that are very capable, that that you can put finishers on. I go back. I started talking about this threat from ink several years back, probably 3 years back at least, or 4, because I saw the Epson 100-page a minute inkjet printer with a finishing sorter or a finishing, finisher that did stapling, and I looked at the output, and while I would not recommend it for a graphics art studio, it had good output, 100-page a minute, and the page cost was insanely low. And to make matters worse, it is a threat because it requires minimal service.
All right, and it's a pretty close race there, though, right? So the HP page wide at basically 0.8 cents for black and white and 4.5 cents for color, and then the looks like Rico comes in second place with their C4500 at basically 0.0084, which is pretty close. And then on the color side, Toshiba, the eStudio 3515 AC wins second place in that one. Just astounding, though,
But
the pricing.
now scroll down and let's see if we can find the total TCO on it. Because I think down at the bottom of that one, lifetime TCO.
All right, here we go. Detailed comparison. And can you see that okay?
I can't see it. I'm sorry. Let me grab the numbers. I have it where I can blow it up on my screen.
Yeah.
So the page wide came in at. I'm going to have to zoom that up. That's what happens when you're old and too vain to wear your reading glasses.
Well, it does look like the HP page wide wins. It's showing the TCO lifetime of 16,156. Then for the Kyocera Task Alpha 4053, it's second place at 19,940. So
actually, Toshiba was second at 17,421.
Oh, sorry, it's not lined up. Yeah. So Toshiba's second at 17,424 almost, and then third place was Kyocera, and fourth place was Rico. So they're all pretty close. But man, that HP E77 650DN is kind of, it's astounding really at that 16,000. So maybe what I'll do now, Ken, is just get you to talk a little bit about the the A4 side of it too.
Yeah. So and this one's again, when you look at this, you have to pay attention because this stuff is coming, and it is not just Epson and HP that are coming into this space, but Canon and Ricoh are coming into this space. It's not going to be long before Konica and Sharp are in this space with ink. And again, the challenge is ink requires significantly less maintenance. But the Canon was at 0.12 black. The Epson was at 0013, so less than 2 mils on black. And look at the color on both of those. 6 mils basically on the Canon, and 7.5 or 8 mils on the Epson. But that is sub a penny for cost of printing for the ink. And then when you look at, the acquisition cost is, it's astounding the difference that these devices, and it is a threat to our business model. And if you don't think so, I would encourage you to go in and start to think about what happens when customers can buy. And I'll give you a perfect example is I needed a printer for the house. I bought an Epson. I didn't buy the EcoTank, which had some advantages, but I needed an ink that was waterproof because I was printing honey labels. And in 3 years of owning it, I replaced the little thing that it squirts the waste ink into.
Yep.
And I've replaced ink. I sure wouldn't have bought a service contract for that little bit of maintenance.
No, it's probably not, right? And I would say, Ken, that this new reality of remote work, however, much of that remains as we kind of move into this new normal, right? That those options are going to be very attractive for a lot of people, right? Maintenance-free printing. And like you said, it's sacrilege in our channel, but, I used to love the expression. It's like, don't shoot the messenger, right? Like, thanks to, the imaging channel for, sharing this information, and that's all we're doing as well, right? It's just the current reality. We can't escape it. All we can do is figure out how we can, make some money. So I'm not an expert in this area, but it will be really interesting to see how this starts to pan out over, the coming months, right? So thanks for sharing that. And I do want to get into the topic at hand. And one of the things I love, Ken, is when you're working with dealers, you do a lot of business analysis, right? So I think what we're going to do today when we talk about future-proofing your business, we're going to give you 5 areas to consider and think about to help future-proof your business. And as we mentioned at the beginning, that could be a pandemic, that could be digital disruption, it could be anything, but ways to make sure that the next time something big comes along, whatever its disruptive power, that we're better prepared for it, right? So, Ken, maybe the first thing I'll do is get you to talk about one that I love you talking about, which is pest analysis.
And this is probably the least used business planning tool. And a lot of people, you tell them a pest analysis, and they don't even have any idea what you're talking about. But this is the first step in creating a business plan. And I encourage dealers. Now, in fact, I'm working with dealers now, helping them build out 5-year business plans. There's a reason for 5 years. First of all, it takes 3 years to train a technician. So you want to know where you're going to be at least 3 years from now. And plus, it broadens your horizon. You start to look at what are the dangers that exist out there. And so PEST stands for political, economic, social, and technology. And so I'm going to throw ink into the mix in a couple of those areas, because from a technology perspective, ink is getting faster, better. From a technology standpoint, it is out there on the horizon. From a social perspective, ink has probably 30% of the landfill impact that, and maybe even less with some of these new Echo Tank type devices, where you just put in a lot of ink into the device. They don't throw away fusers, drums, developers. You don't have all the packing material, all this stuff that goes into the landfill. And your energy consumption is way less. So from both of those perspectives, ink is a threat. But there's some other things that are happening out there that we want to think about. And Wes mentioned it as we were talking. You think about, we're moving to a more and more electronic environment. Right now, I just did a contract with a company. I had to sign a legal agreement. Not a page of paper got printed. They sent it to me. I signed it electronically. They sent me an electronically signed copy back. For people that have come on my podcast, which by the way is Tuesday afternoons at 3. Have to get a plug in. Excuse me, Tuesday afternoons at 2 Eastern. Had to get a plug in. Wes sitting over there probably grimacing. But all of my forms that I send them are all electronic. I don't print anything anymore. I get a release from them, says I can use their image and likeness. Nothing ever gets printed. It's all digital. So this transformation that we've been thinking about for a long time is the pandemic's definitely accelerated. So that's a piece of it. The other thing that we think about in the economic environment is, thank you. Very nice. You start to think about what is happening in our marketplace. We have some major dealers that are running around playing Pac-Man. And one of the things that all of them have in common is they all support the entire office. So, for example, if you have Staples in town, you have Dex. And so let's say that you are the current vendor of choice for their copying devices. And Dex picks up the network and their phone system and their displays. How long do you think it's going to be before Dex owns everything? And, if you're trying to acquire new business and their current provider takes care of everything, you've lost your opportunity to acquire new business, and you've put your ability to maintain your existing customer base at risk if you can't support everything. So that's a factor in it. We don't know what's going to happen to the supply chain. We look at what's going on right now in the copier industry and in so many other industries. The supply chain is totally disrupted. What can you do to make sure that your revenue is still okay? There's just so many pieces to this. And these are things, and like I said, you want to be thinking out 5 years. Look at it and say, what might happen? Now, I'll say this, you're not going to get it 100% accurate. But the process of thinking through it and then having each of your departments look at how those things will impact their, what they do and how they support the customer. We do these things, and what starts to happen is we can become a much more flexible, a much more nimble company, and we can adapt. If we don't look out at the distance, we could wind up like typewriter dealers that weren't paying attention to a few little things like, let's say, a couple guys named Hewlett and Packard in a garage.
Yeah.
The IBM PC, Wang and word processing software, and thought that they were fine because at that point in time, their business was fine. And a few years later, their business was gone.
Yes.
So anyway, I encourage you to look at the future.
Yeah, I love this pest analysis and the conversations we've had around it. And to your point, I mean, no one says we're going to be able to predict the future 5 years in advance. Things are changing so quickly. However, we'll have a mindset which is constantly paying attention to this, right? And I know that when you do that pest analysis and revisit and modify and update that every year, then you will do a pretty good job of predicting the future and being ready for it, right? So, yeah, absolutely love that, Ken. All right, the second thing that we need to do, and you were kind of showing this in the numbers there, right? But there's kind of two ways that we have a race to the bottom. One is, as we looked at, the actual cost of those toner cartridges and, the cost per page, both for monochrome and black and white. The second piece is the margins, right? And we've done ourselves a disservice. And I won't beat this horse to death much more because everyone knows our take on this. But cost per page selling, the margins have absolutely dropped through the floor. Customers own the sales process. They want a better price. They don't care about the quality issues or, keeping us whole or anything else, right? So that's one of the things that we have to do. And the reason I put flat rate in there is we need to change the rules. And the beauty of flat rate, Ken, is that changing the rules with a flat rate program help both the customer actually win and help the dealer to win, right? And anyways, it's very seldom in my sales career that I've had those opportunities where I can actually do better for the customer while doing better for myself at the same time.
Yeah. And again, we can't leave this without having a purple cow.
Yeah. And get started, man. It's funny. I love hearing dealers as they start to launch their programs when they're the only ones in the marketplace which are offering it today, right? And that's also one of the first questions we get when we're training people is like, well, who else in my market is doing this, right? And right now, odds are that's going to be nobody. A year from now, everyone, pay attention. We have a flat rate show that we're doing every week. We did the 10-day challenge. Ken and I aren't slowing down. The market is not slowing down. So take advantage of, this year for sure to establish some of that market share, right? So if I was doing pest analysis and I was looking at some of, the technological factors and the economic factors in there, certainly all of the pieces necessary to do a successful flat rate program are here today. This is not future stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, and you said there's probably nobody. That's unless you're in Chicago.
Well, yes.
We have a friend in Chicago, and if you're on LinkedIn and you haven't seen him live, you must not be on LinkedIn very much. But he is blowing up in Chicago because he's the only one. And he said it's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, certainly for major market, right? And where we've seen a lot of traction so far, and I think just like any kind of innovation is with smaller dealers in the channel so far that are in smaller markets that have taken this on, right? But yeah, Earl in a very large market making a very big difference with his flat rate program, right? So yeah, pay attention to a city near you. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time there, but we really do have to end this race to the bottom, right? And, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the lower cost per page of ink that's coming in the marketplace. It's going to change the technology mix that goes into any managed print offering, provided you're not selling it by the page. Because I would not want to be in the business of selling, color for, 4.5 cents a page. And that's OEM, right? Like we're not talking compatible or anything, right? So at any rate.
Yeah.
The third thing, and we'll be talking flat rate law, folks, so we're going to move on. Research new services. And Ken, you kind of mentioned it, right? That, if Dex is selling other things into that office space or another dealer is selling them other things, how long do you think it's going to be before they take over those other pieces, right? And that is so good for future proofing, and nothing stops you from doing that as well, right? So I think the days of being a pure play office equipment dealer or managed print provider are behind us. You look at the BTA events, some of the most popular talk tracks that they have, Ken, is wrapped around diversifying their services, managed IT and other things, right? Yeah. Business diversification. Same with the Managed Print Services Association. Same with just about every dealer that I talk to, right? So now is the time to really make sure that you're researching these new services, right?
Oh, I agree 100%. I think that and I've said this on BTA stages for a couple of years now. The key to all of this, and I'll use a fishing analogy. You'll like this. What's the difference between fishing for example, typically fly fishing for trout, the hook you use, or the hook you would use for fishing for, we could say walleye, or better yet, let's say pike, big northerns?
Well, I would say that when you're fly fishing, aren't they typically, I mean, I know not always, but they're typically a smaller, insect type, lure that sits on top of the water. Whereas when you're fishing for pike or muskie, it's typically, deep water fish or bait, like something that looks like it's swimming, right? So,
okay, that's part of it. But the other thing is the other thing is the hook, because when you're fly fishing, typically use most areas are catch barbless hook.
Yeah,
and what does the hook look like if you're fishing for big muskies or for pike?
There's a little jig on the end of that hook, so it's not coming off.
Yes. Yeah, but there's typically a big treble hook, and I was up in Coal Lake in Canada, up in northern Alberta, and they were using like Daredevil spoons, and they had, I swear, the hook looked like it was this big across, and they'd skip it across the water, catching these. And the point is when that pike hits that, he's hooked. He's wide and deep, and that's what you want to do. Is you want to get as many of those barbs into your customers as you can. And I'm not saying abuse your customers. I'm not saying do anything bad for your customers, but just get a secure grip on your customer, so that they can't throw you. You've got them. They're yours.
With the number of hooks, you get a better hook set, right? And
yeah,
and that's good for the customer, right? That the more things you can do for them, the less providers they have to deal with, the happier they are, right? And there's all kinds of analysis out there. Like go up and look at online, folks. I'd recommend that you do this. The actual cost of dealing with multiple vendors versus one, right? Like what that cost is internally for the organization. So you can save them a ton of money just by providing them more services, right? And that's not because you're cheaper. It's just because they have less of that management involved with taking care of those vendors and suppliers, right?
Right.
Love it. Point number 4, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but obviously to update the business plan. And this is kind of a shocking thing, right? Is that I know business plans suck, that they are hard to put together, but we all did them once upon a time. And the idea being is to have a fresh look at our business plan and make sure, Ken, as you talked about with that pest analysis, to make sure that it's updated. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. And when I say business plan, I am not talking. In fact, I had an interesting conversation with somebody this week about the smoke and mirrors. Oh, it was in my podcast yesterday. And it is available on LinkedIn. One more plug. But I was talking to this lady that was a financial expert. And we were talking about the smoke and mirrors business plan that everybody takes to the bank. But that's not what I'm talking about in this segment. When we're talking about updating your business plan, we're talking about a document that provides guidance on what your decision points are, when you hire, what you're going to do, and where you're going to be in 5 years. And again, you're not going to get exactly where you're going to be, but you want to be in a situation that you've moved in the general direction that you're most likely going to have to move in, so that 5 years from now, you're not all of a sudden looking around and say, wait a minute, nobody's buying copiers and nobody wants cost per copy, and everybody's got ink and all these other companies are doing these things and you're not. You want to be at the lead of the change rather at the tail end of it. Because the people that lead, I use this analogy before too. We go back to the Oklahoma land rush. They call these people Sooners, that they figured a way to get out there sooner than everybody else, and they got the best land. Well, the best land in the new environments that are going to exist in 5 years are available to stake out if you get yourself pointed in that direction and start staking your claim. You cannot be on the tail end of it if you want to really develop your business and thrive. That's my thought.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, when you think of anything that you're planning for 5 years, right, Ken, like I do some writing on the side as well. It's one of my hobbies. And one of the best lessons I ever learned was to lay out the chapters and the structure first, right? So if you want to kill writer's block, give yourself something to follow. Like once you have those things in place, it's much easier to get the whole thing done, right? As opposed to just staring at that blank page, saying, well, this is what we do, and let's just do a better job of doing it next year. It's like, well, no, if you're going to do something new, I love what you say there. And it's also interesting that, it is different than what you're bringing to the bank to get a loan or money or anything else, right? This is your day-to-day, plan to be able to get you where you want to go, right?
Yeah, and I just want to comment on it because I teach service management through the BTA.
Yeah.
And a lot of people know that. And I've probably had 60 students now either in my class or gone through the class. And so far, I think I've had one company where the service manager had a business plan even for the current year.
Right.
Nobody had one that went out 5 years. And again, think about it. If I'm going to hire a tech today, it's going to take 3 years before he's up to speed. I really should know where I'm going to be in 3 years. So I make a good hiring decision. I make good training decisions. You've got to get started. And I'll use another one of my analogies. When we look and drive our businesses by looking at our metrics, it is the equivalent of driving your car looking at the white stripe on the road. And that works fine as long as the road is straight and there's nothing in front of you. But if a tree's falling across the road or the bridge is out or the road turns, looking at that stripe is going to get you in serious trouble. And so, again, just my whole thought of this is look out at the horizon, just like when you're driving your car. You're looking a long ways down the road, trying to figure out, okay, what adjustments might I have to make? So do this with your business.
Yeah, completely agree. And the other thing that I would say, Ken, that's kind of a good segue into number 5, right? As you're building that business plan instead of 1 year, it actually happens to be the number 5, which is good for a 5-year plan, which is get flat rate certified. And one of the things that obviously we help dealers to do, we train dealers, but we also certify dealers that have already got their own programs to, again, make sure that they have that structure and that plan in place to be able to successfully, get their programs into the marketplace, right? So work with us, get flat rate certified. Obviously, you can use that to, help build customer trust in your program, and we'll give you continuing support. So as you decide to launch this in the marketplace, you're going to start seeing that flat rate certified logo a lot more. So you can get in touch with us and learn how to do that. The other thing is make sure you get access to the 10-day challenge because that is free. And let me see if I can pull that up for folks. Where do I have that here? Or you can get it for free, but Ken, maybe talk for a second about what it costs and how they can get it for free.
Well, if you buy it if you get it the way I want you to get it, it's $239, and that helps fund my next trip.
Yes.
And Wes is killing me. He's trying to find ways to stop funding my vacation here.
Yes, and I'll talk to that for a second because Ken, as you also know, I love to give back to the Office Equipment Channel, and that's why I'm the president of the Managed Print Services Association, again, for another term, right? That I want people to join the Managed Print Services Association, be a part of the change, everything that we're doing to move forward into the future. And typically that membership is about $250 for a dealer. We charge roughly the same for getting access to the 10-day challenge, which has about 11 hours of content for helping you do a better job of building your flat rate program. You'll get that for free. So if you join the MPSA, pay for the membership, Ken won't be able to go on as many vacations as he wants to, but you will get the 10-day challenge for free. We've got a coupon, code for that to make sure that you can get access to it. So why not? Why wouldn't you, right? And we just announced the new board and executive team, some of the initiatives that we're working on for 2021 and 2022. So it's the best time ever in our 10-year mission to join the MPSA. All right.
And I agree. I am a member of the MPSA. I heartily support it and recommend it, even if it does limit my travel.
Well, that's great. Hey, Ken, I can't thank you enough for yet another great week with you. I'm glad to have you back. It's never the same when you're not here and you're on one of your trips. So thank you very much. And to everybody that has been watching today, just remember, Ken and I would love to help you out. If you need some help with your flat rate program, have any questions, etc., make sure you get in touch with us. Okay, so until next week.
All right, we'll see everybody.